Welcome to Horror and Hamburgers, the home of meat, monsters, and magic puzzle boxes. I'm Noah Hook, and today we're looking at Hellraiser III, Hell on Earth. Hell on Earth was released in 1992, 4 years after Hellbound. Hell on Earth marks a transition in the series. Hellraiser was now a franchise, a moneymaker. Gone are the abstract and truly uncomfortable moments of the original. Gone is any substantial, subtle critique or symbolism. Time to welcome explosions and Pinhead going on mass killing sprees. It moves the story away from Kirsty Cotton, but it still follows the continuity of the first two movies, as Pinhead is still trapped in the Pillar of Souls, where he was left in Hellbound, and we still get a Kirsty cameo through videotape. Clive Barker reprised his role as executive producer, but was pretty uninvolved until post-production. Barker wanted the third film to continue following Claire Higgins' character, Julia, but Higgins declined to reprise her role. Hellraiser III went through development hell, with Barker's production company Film Futures having gone bankrupt and New World Pictures having serious money problems as well. The rights to the movie were transferred to Transatlantic Pictures, who Barker said refused to pay his fees. This is what led to his late involvement. Tony Randall returned to write the story with Peter Atkins, who was also a screenwriter for Hellbound. Randall was set to direct, but producers removed him, feeling the story was too bleak. He was replaced by Anthony Hickox, who had made Waxwork, Sundown the Vampire in Retreat, and Waxwork 2, Lost in Time. Barker believed Hickox, who had mostly done horror comedies, to be a poor fit for a Hellraiser film. Barker sat his ass down and told him to take these S&M demons seriously. We'll see if he did. Hell on Earth's budget is a little vague. It's estimated between 2 and 3 million, but it ended up earning 12.5 million at the box office, and even initially received more positive reception than Hellbound. This is pretty much due to it being a more mainstream film in comparison to the first two. It was much more in line with what a teenager would expect to see when going to the theater to see a quote-unquote slasher film. Most critics were unimpressed, finding it unoriginal and cheap, and that has become more of the consensus through time. On Rotten Tomatoes, it sits in the 40s and 30s, the lowest of the Hellraiser films so far. I'm going to be honest here, I actually don't hate Hell on Earth. Hell on Earth is almost more of an action horror, and this is where Pinhead begins his full descent into Freddy Krueger territory. The movie is probably the least scary out of the three, but it is still a fun watch. It has a continuously moving story, decent characters, and club-themed Cenobites. What's not to love? Maybe that last part. But let's get to the movie. We see this really cool guy named J.P. Monroe, played by Kevin Bernhardt, enter the Pyramid Gallery. A little boring, but at least it's not a fucking montage of the last movie's finale. So the gallery is definitely closed, but JP just wanders around until a statue catches his eye, and it's the goddamn Pillar of Souls in this bitch, which so thankfully changed to this pretty cool statue. If this whole movie was that pathetic pillar from Hellbound, I would have gagged. The derelict creeps up behind him and starts his sales pitch. The derelict lets him pay whatever he thinks it's worth, and JP now has his very own Cenobite. Now we meet our actual protagonist, Joey, played by Terry Farrell. Joey is a news reporter, and she is very frustrated she hasn't been given any decent stories. I guess she was assigned to the emergency room and is mad nothing bad is happening? I don't know if news programs do that or not. We also meet the cameraman Doc, who is super sweet and reassuring. Doc gets called to another story, so Joey is leaving the incredibly dark hospital by herself. But then some paramedics come running in with a dude who is really fucked up. He's bleeding all over the place and has hooked chains stuck in him. I wonder who could have done that. Joey questions the woman with him, named Terry, who says this happened at the boiler room. Terry is played by Paula Marshall in her first film role. Joey gets distracted when the chains fly up in the air and shoot electricity and shit, and then his fucking head explodes like we're in Scanners. Fuck yeah. The next night, Joey is back at the newsroom with Doc and this other guy, Brad. Brad suggests Joey start being a bit more promiscuous on camera to earn more screen time, which Joey objects to. We also learn Joey is going to try to learn more about what happened last night. She finds the boiler room, a really weird club with a horror 90s hairband aesthetic. There's weird mannequins and that stupid baby doll from Hellbound. Thought you could slip that stupid baby past me. They even have Armored Saint playing live. After asking a few employees, she gets pointed to the restaurant, which is an entirely different vibe. It's candlelit, has violins, and everyone looks bougie as hell. Not sure how these belong to the same establishment, but whatever. She finds JP, who only has interest in being a dick, but Joey gives him her card anyway. We do see that Terry was around and saw Joey, and out of nowhere we cut to a battlefield. I guess it's supposed to be Vietnam, but it's definitely just some field in the woods. Joey is dreaming about her dad who died in Vietnam before she was born. Apparently she is really hung up on it. Dreams and war are two pretty consistent themes in Hell on Earth, and Joey's dream about her dad will have a larger role later. Joey wakes up to a call from Terry, who agrees to talk if she can stay the night, as JP kicked her out. Joey tells Terry about her nightmare, which Terry is jealous of because she doesn't dream. She'd like to see something else aside from shitty clubs and shitty guys. I also really like the character of Terry. She is super sweet but also makes a lot of self-destructive decisions. Most of the characters just seem way more natural and real compared to the insane archetypes we get in Hellbound. Joey starts asking about what happened at the boiler room. Terry says the hooks came from the box, which he stole from the statue. The box is now made out of stone. Back at the boiler room, JP notices a hole in the statue where the box was taken from. He sticks his hand in for some stupid reason, and a fucking rat bites him. He splashes some blood on the statue, which flows towards Pinhead's mouth and is absorbed. The next morning, Terry tries to make breakfast and expresses her excitement about the nice apartment. Terry explains she was the one who originally found the gallery and told JP about the statue, so they make a trip over to Pyramid, which is closed. And this really funny guy across the street says the gallery has been closed for about a month, and then he just leaves and drags his poodle away with him. Terry decides to break in through the back. They start looking for info about the statue, which they immediately find. Back at the club, JP picks up a woman at the bar with the help of his bartender, Rick. He uses really shitty lines to woo her, but they work as we cut to them banging in his in-house suite. The statue is now in his bedroom? Was it always there? Not sure about that. As JP nuts and extends his arms like he's Tarzan or something, Pinhead opens his eyes. Pinhead is a bit of a voyeur, I see. Joey has now been calling to learn more about the Chenard Institute and her other findings. She has a picture of Kirsty, the murder mattress, and Elliot Spencer. She is able to get them to send the Kirsty Cotton tape from their archives. Terry prepares to leave, but Joey wants her new bestie to stay. The girl from the club is busy admiring JP's weird art, and I think her line delivery is absolutely hilarious. I'm not sure if it's intentional or not. JP lets her know she isn't special and needs to get out of there. She starts yelling at him as he prances around, and bam, she got a little too close to Mr. Statue and gets hooked, de-skinned, fucking eaten, and becomes part of the Pillar of Souls. Pinhead now has his pins.
Jesus Christ!
Not quite.
That is one of my favorite Pinhead quotes to date. I actually think this Pinhead is my favorite. While he is so calm and composed most of the time in the previous movies, he is way more volatile in Hell on Earth, and he just has way more dialogue in general. Pinhead explains that they are very similar, as they both use the woman for their own enjoyment. JP tries to shoot Pinhead, but the spiky bastard knows that is the gun JP killed his parents with. What? He just went from serious douchebag to serious douchebag murderer real quick. JP shoots, but Pinhead just spits the bullets onto the floor. Pinhead reuses JP's shitty pickup line about accepting your qualities. He insists JP always wanted to explore torture and to have power. Pinhead offers him a place as his right hand. JP accepts his offer.
It's Doc time!
Doc finds Joey leaving and gives her a package for her that just came in. It's the motherfucking Kirsty Cotton tape! Doc lets her know if he can help in any way he would love to. Doc is so sweet. I love Doc. Joey watches the tape, which shows Kirsty at the Chenard Institute as she explains the box and the Cenobites. She explains the box wants to be opened and can almost hypnotize someone into doing so. The tape starts getting staticky and our boy Elliot Spencer appears. He says Kirsty is telling the truth and disappears. Back at the apartment, the box has returned to its original shiny form and starts beckoning to Terry. Terry damn near opens the box, but is interrupted by a phone call from JP. JP's little bitch ass tries to get her to come over, to which she initially refuses. But in comes a voicemail from Doc saying she got a new job in a different city. So Terry just leaves. I guess she is hurt that Joey didn't tell her, but something could have really been resolved there, but oh well. Terry just wanted a BFF. Oh, we're back in Vietnam. Oh wait, no, it's World War I now. Elliot says hello, but then Joey wakes up. But then he comes in again through the TV asking for help. Well, Terry has rejoined Captain Dipshit. JP immediately starts being mean and coercive. After some talking, he starts to apologize, which I'm not sure if it's genuine or not, but then he gets influenced by Pinhead and is more rushed and focused on the plan to feed her to him. We even get a "come to daddy" from him. JP grabs her and brings her to Pinhead, who is screaming like a fucking banshee, but she manages to knock JP out with some brass knuckles. But Pinhead is an opportunistic guy and starts insisting he can help her dream, to experience dark wonders and pleasures. All she has to do is give him JP. Terry brings him close enough as he is waking, and Pinhead hooks him and jams a piston into his head. Not really sure why a piston. This brings the statue to life momentarily. Hey you guys! The statue falls apart into guts and stuff, and ta-da! Pinhead is back. Joey is dreaming again. This time she's in her apartment, but she finds a really old-timey radio. You know, the kind Elliot Spencer listens to when he's getting dragged to hell. She opens her curtain, and through the window she sees Elliot Spencer fiddling with the box. She is able to enter this realm, but Elliot doesn't seem to notice her. A door opens and takes her to the World War I trenches. Elliot formally introduces himself and tells Joey she isn't dreaming. He explains that her dreams about her dad allowed him to bring her to this realm, Elliot's own version of limbo. Elliot explains he lost faith in humanity during the war and sought out the box to experience pleasure. He says the box found the monster within him, and he served hell for decades with no memory of his own life. While he was a monster, he was bound by hell's laws. The box had to be opened for him to come, and the truly innocent were always safe. Kirsty helped him remember, which freed his soul from the being known as Pinhead, but that evil entity survived as well, and hid until the right time. But now Pinhead is alive and not bound by any rules. Elliot explains the box is a gateway to hell that Pinhead will want to destroy. Elliot can't come to her world, so he needs Joey to bring Pinhead here so he can defeat him. Apparently the box must be given to him, which is very convenient, but he warns Pinhead can be very persuasive and inventive. At the boiler room, the party is bumping until Pinhead starts blowing shit up and makes his grand entrance. Pinhead immediately starts hooking and spearing and using shitty CGI ice to kill people. We see him wrap barbed wire around the bartender's head and launch CDs into the DJ's head. He locks the doors and kills everybody in the club. Joey sees on the TV that people are being killed at the boiler room.
It's Doc time!
She calls up Doc and asks him to meet her at the club, even though he doesn't see the news she is, but because Doc is a sweet angel, he tells her to meet him there. As Joey leaves with the box, we see that the TV is unplugged. Dun dun dun! Joey gets to the club and sees no cops, just Doc's car outside. She makes her way inside, where she finds Pinhead's carnage. Lots of bodies, including this one guy who got stuffed with billiard balls. Hell yeah. But worst of all, she finds our sweet, innocent, gentle giant Doc has been decapitated. No! Gone but not forgotten Doc. Pinhead emerges and starts talking mad shit. He says if Joey gives him the box, he will make her death quick. She refuses and makes Pinhead angry, and he tries to take the box but gets zip-zapped. Joey runs and is nearly hit by a taxi that hits a light pole. This plus a burst hydrant creates a flood of electricity that Joey barely escapes. Some hooks from the sewer nearly get her as she keeps running. Lots of explosions. Joey stops by some TVs in a window and sees she's being filmed.
It's Doc time!
And behold, we get to see our new Cenobites. Doc has been transformed into the almighty camera head, who, get this, has a camera in his head. Neato. But apparently he can use this camera lens to blow shit up. Joey runs into some random dude who somehow hasn't noticed the absolute chaos that surrounds him, and Camerahead fucking punches through the dude's skull like he's a damn xenomorph. We then meet another one of Pinhead's new toys, the DJ who had those CDs jammed into his head. He has been turned into the most creative name of the bunch, CD. CD ejects CDs out of his tummy and throws them like a shuriken, which he does to that taxi driver. And finally, to cap off our sick new trio, is JP's bartender. He has been wrapped in barbed wire and breathes fire, and of course is a bartender, so he is named Barbie. Some cops show up and get absolutely wrecked by the Cenobites. CD kills one and Barbie lights up the other two. Camerahead is there to make shitty camera puns. Joey runs into a church where a pastor is there for some reason in the middle of the night. She warns him of the demons, to which he says aren't real, just in time for Pinhead to show up. He blows up the windows and melts the pastor's cross. He pulls 2 pins out of his head and sticks them through his hands in what I'd say is the best shot of the movie.
I am the way.
I have no idea what the fuck he's doing, but it looks cool. The preacher comes at him, but Pinhead easily overpowers him and sticks a piece of his own Pinhead flesh into his mouth. Gross. Luckily, Joey is able to distract him with the box and runs. Joey runs into a construction site where she finds Cenobite, JP, and Terry, aka Pistonhead and Dreamer. Pistonhead obviously has a piston in his head, and Dreamer is essentially the female Cenobite, but with a cigarette in her throat hole. They approach her and Joey summons her inner Kirsty and doesn't fucking run and just lets them beat the shit out of her as Pinhead and the other Cenobites catch up. But she once again summons her inner Kirsty and becomes a fucking puzzle master, and uses it to blast away Camerahead, Barbie, CD, Pistonhead, and Dreamer. It also blasts Pinhead, and it seems to work on him. Kirsty uses her vague dream mind powers to go to Vietnam. She is approached by her dad. Her dad says he needs the box, which she hands over, but then realizes he wouldn't know her name. Pinhead reveals it's him. He says dreams are the best way to use humans' emotions to torture them. By the way, it's really funny to see Pinhead standing in the woods. Pinhead describes the mind as a door, which reminds Joey to use her mind to bring Pinhead to Elliot. Elliot tells Pinhead they are both going back to hell, but Pinhead chains up Joey and puts some leather on her. Pinhead tries to convince Spencer to give in, as he loves this as much as Pinhead and is the one who created him. They could torture the world as one together. Then some weird lamprey thing comes out of the ground and prepares to do something bad to Joey's face. But Elliot doesn't give in and grabs Pinhead, making him drop the box and making the worm and Joey's restraints disappear. The two scuffle until they merge and twist together and Pinhead absorbs Spencer. How they manage such amazing CGI at this point is beyond me. It seems Pinhead had won, but Elliot is able to tell Joey to send them to hell, and she is able to turn the box into a dagger, which she stabs Pinhead in the heart with. He warps and zip-zaps and gets sucked into the box. Hooray! Joey wakes up at the construction site and buries the box in a slab of wet cement that was somehow just around in the middle of the night. Sometime later, we see the site the box was buried in has the lament configuration all over it, and Motorhead's Hellraiser sees us through the credits. So that's Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. This one gets a bit of a bad rap. I, believe it or not, enjoy it. I care about the characters. The story isn't bogged down by too much lore or really crappy sets and props, and we get to see the Cenobites do some damage, all of which were big issues for me in Hellbound. This is the most threatening Pinhead has felt. This is by far the most dialogue and action we get to see him doing. He has so many great lines and moments in this one. This is the first time we really get to see what makes Pinhead tick. We get to see his love of being a Cenobite. And the new Cenobites can actually do stuff. They have specific methods for killing, which is kind of what I wanted from the original gash of Cenobites. I understand the argument of CD and Camerahead being lame. I don't argue that point. They are not scary in the slightest, but I can't say I've ever really been afraid of the Cenobites in the first place. But I appreciate the Cenobites actually being threatening in-world and able to kill without resorting just to tiny knives. The creators took a chance with the early 90s theme and didn't age well, but I can appreciate the effort. And I think the movie did a good job of bridging all of the events of the first two movies, especially the end of Hellbound. There are definitely logistic issues though, don't get me wrong. It was my understanding in Hellbound that Leviathan was the only one who created Cenobites, so I'm not sure how Earth Pinhead is able to. Also, what is happening in Hell? Is Leviathan just chilling by itself? Also, who claimed the Pillar of Souls and sold it? Channard Institute? Oh well, I'm not going to worry about previous movie problems too much. I think Joey is a pretty good new protagonist. The whole dream thing is a bit vague, but I think it was tied in well thematically and plot-wise. The movie was able to still have bloody deaths and uncomfortable body horror, but it didn't go overboard with it. The war settings were an interesting idea. They didn't really get executed well. A bigger budget would have definitely made them seem less jarringly not real. I once again think the Cenobites were too easily taken down, although they were bulletproof, making them physically stronger than previous Cenobites, I think. But this time Pinhead at least was able to fight back with his own supernatural games. The battle between him and Elliot was a bit weird. The morphing graphics definitely don't hold up, and of course the box functioned as a deus ex machina just like before. But all in all, I think this one is worth the watch if you've seen 1 and 2. It's definitely the most typical plot. While the creativity and the story structure isn't as strong, I think it does hold its own as a decent, more straightforward horror movie. It isn't anything amazing or truly thought-provoking, but you get to see Pinhead kill a lot of people. That's about it. Up next we'll be looking at Hellraiser IV Bloodline. In case you aren't aware, Pinhead is about to go to space. Just what everyone was asking for. As usual, I'm Noah Hook, and thanks for tuning into Horror and Hamburgers. See you next time.